Hey everyone, welcome back. Today, we're diving into something that is, well, it's honestly going to send shivers down your spine. We're looking at the chilling case of house number 7, but we aren't just looking at the facts. We're stepping into the shoes of the ones who suffered the most, the kids. Imagine being a young child, completely terrified, screaming for help, and the people who are supposed to protect you, your parents, just don't believe a single word you say. Think about that absolute helplessness. For the parents, moving here seemed like a dream, but for young Arav and Driti, it was a massive, silent trap. Mommy, that kid took my toy. Hearing a little boy say that sounds totally normal, right? Just everyday sibling rivalry or playground drama. But here's the catch. There was no other kid in the house. According to our sources, this innocent little complaint from young Arav was the very first red flag. It was the beginning of an inescapable nightmare. Usually, when a kid talks about someone who isn't there, we just brush it off as an overactive imagination, right? And that's exactly what his parents, Amit and Neha, did. They completely ignored this terrifying warning sign. It's crazy how differently adults and kids see the world. Take Amit, the dad. He is absolutely thrilled. He just scored this massive, beautiful two-storied house away from the city for only 5,000 rupees a month. I mean, to him, it's like winning the lottery. But now, zoom in on the kids. They don't care about the rent. They just feel this heavy, suffocating silence. To them, the house isn't spacious. It's vast, empty, and incredibly lonely. And the absolute worst part? That locked room upstairs. The kids could feel something deeply wrong hiding behind that door, while the parents were just blinded by the cheap price tag. At first glance, it really seemed like a dream playground. A huge garden, these old iron swings. Arav and Driti literally had 2 whole floors to just run wild in. It gave them this totally false sense of security. But right in the middle of all that fun, there was one unbreakable rule. Their mom, Neha, warned them constantly, never go upstairs. The upper floor was super dusty, and of course, there was that one locked door. Naturally, to a kid, that upstairs area instantly becomes this forbidden, mysterious zone, a dark corner that always felt like it was watching them while they played. But then, everything shifted. The forbidden seal was broken. The lock was snapped, and the door opened. Mom figured, hey, we might need an extra room for guests, right? So she has the estate agent bring in a locksmith. To Amit and Neha, they were just airing out a dusty old room. But what they were actually doing, they were unwittingly unleashing whatever horrifying thing had been locked inside. The moment that door cracked open, the entire vibe of the house, which was already pretty creepy to the kids, turned absolutely hostile. Now, we all know what imaginary friends are, right? A totally harmless, made-up playtime buddy. But what if your kid's new friend isn't a product of their imagination at all, but a trapped spirit? When little Arav started casually mentioning that a boy and an old woman from upstairs were playing with him every evening, his parents didn't panic. They just thought, oh, he's got a wild imagination, sat him in front of the TV, and completely brushed it off. As a kid, you don't have the vocabulary to explain supernatural terror. You just tell it exactly like you see it. And having your parents dismiss your reality, that's true psychological isolation. And then, the playtime turns violent. He wouldn't give my ball back. Then the old woman chased me. Just put yourself in RF's tiny shoes for a second. There are literal entities trying to harm him. He is sobbing, terrified out of his mind, and his dad still writes it off as a bad dream. Neha looked a bit spooked, sure, but they still did nothing. This is where the sheer panic really sets in for a child. The absolute horror of knowing something is coming for you, and your protectors are stubbornly refusing to see it. And the terror wasn't just targeting Arav anymore. Let's walk through Dhrithi's afternoon because it escalates so fast. At 1 p.m., she gets out of her school exams early. By 1:15, she's ringing the doorbell, and the front door just slowly opens by itself. Creepy, but okay. At 1:16, she walks in and smells her mom's cooking, this really comforting, delicious scent. But then, exactly 1 minute later, at 1:17 p.m., as she steps towards the kitchen, that warm smell instantly turns into the putrid, gag-inducing stench of rotting flesh. Going from a totally normal school day to sheer, stomach-churning dread in a matter of seconds. When Driti finally peeked into the dark kitchen, the sight was straight out of a nightmare. There they were, the old woman and the young boy Arav kept talking about. They were sitting on the bare floor, in the dark, eating food that was completely black and rotting. That's where that horrific smell was coming from. For a young girl to witness something so incredibly grotesque, something that shatters her entire reality, that's a trauma that stays with you forever. She literally just turned around and ran screaming out of the house. Mommy, they are calling me to play. Imagine waking up to your kids saying that in the pitch black dead of night. The house is completely silent, the parents are sleeping peacefully, oblivious to everything, but the kids? They are wide awake, trembling, listening to these entities coaxing them from the top of the stairs. They were sitting ducks. The kids are living in this constant state of sheer terror in the dark, while the adults are blissfully snoozing away. It's just heartbreakingly scary. Finally, the bubble bursts for the parents. After hearing a massive crash upstairs, Mayha forces herself to climb those steps. She pushes open the door to that newly unlocked room, and right there on the floor, eyes wide open, staring right at her, it was the lifeless bodies of the old woman and the child, just lying there, dead, but staring straight into her soul. This was the horrific reality her children had been forced to endure completely alone, and now it was finally staring her right in the face. Neha is absolutely shaking. Her heart is pounding out of her chest as she slams the door shut. And right then, right in that freezing silence, a voice echoes out. "This house is mine. Get out of here." And guys, this wasn't a human voice. It was deep, booming, and completely unnatural. It literally knocked the wind out of her. She stumbled down the stairs as fast as she could. The house was finally speaking, and it wanted them gone. So what do the adults do? They try to science their way out of it. They call in Dr. Anshul, a paranormal investigator, with all his high-tech EMF meters. But the second he steps upstairs, the meters just start screaming, and then, bam, every single battery and every piece of equipment instantly dies. Again, think of the kids watching this. The expert who was supposed to fix everything is completely powerless. Dr. Anshul flat out tells them these spirits are dangerously powerful. Modern tech was completely useless against whatever ancient thing was living upstairs. With science out the window, they turn to spirituality. They bring in tantric Mahal Kalgiri. He starts chanting, throwing holy water, and it completely backfires. Instead of calming down, the room absolutely explodes into chaos. Objects are flying through the air, massive invisible hits are smashing against the walls. The kids are huddled in a corner watching the adults, their last line of defense, completely lose control of the situation. The tantric actually has to retreat, and he desperately seals the room from the outside. And then the tantric drops a bombshell that changes everything. These souls were trapped here before. It is impossible to get them out. They weren't dealing with a simple haunting. They had literally moved into a supernatural prison. Those entities were locked in that room for a reason, and the day the parents broke that lock, they accidentally set the inmates free. It's a gut-wrenching realization. You can't exorcise something from a house when the house itself is their eternal jail cell. Needless to say, the family packed up and fled into the night. They couldn't get out of there fast enough. But the story doesn't even end there. A little while later, they found out that the actual owner of the house, the guy who lived abroad and rented it to them so cheaply, died under incredibly mysterious circumstances. House number 7 was abandoned forever. It still stands there, massive and rotting. And locals say if you ever wander too close, you can still hear that booming, unnatural voice echoing from the upstairs window. We saw how the lure of a cheap, beautiful house turned into an inescapable nightmare, especially for two innocent kids who saw the truth long before the adults did. So it leaves us with one chilling question. If you found a massive, gorgeous house for an unbelievably cheap price, would you dare to move in? It really makes you wonder about the true cost of things that seem too good to be true. Some locked doors are locked for a reason. I'll leave you with that unsettling thought. Thanks for joining me on this explainer. Stay safe and seriously, be aware of locked doors.